This is the Mulligan Stew Podcast. I'm Terry David Mulligan. I hope that you will consider subscribing. You can take what you wish. I do know that next week, Kids in the Hall, Scott Thompson and Bruce McCullough will be by to tell us about how on earth they ended up back on television doing some of the most high-wire act in comedy. It's amazing. So they'll be around next week. I'm sure someone will be ticked off. The guests this week are two friends, David and Joey Landreth from Winnipeg, Manitoba, the Landreth Brothers. Or as we talk, literally right off the bat, the Bros Landreth is how it looks, not how it's said. The first time I heard them, I thought they are living in the spirit of Little Feat, Lowell George version of Little Feat. Came to realize that their dad was a working musician for most of their growing up lives and brought home the music with him and turned them on to all the great music from the 60s and 70s. No lame stuff here. They got a great schooling at home from their father. And it shows in the music. And I knew they were going to put things together. Joey had his own career as a guitar whiz. That's what he is. He plays incredible guitar. And he's known throughout parts of the world for being Joey Landreth, guitar whiz. But the Landreth Brothers, basically, they're sticking together. They know they have played for other people. They've learned their chops from other bands and because they were side guys. But when they get together, they make beautiful music. And here's the thing. There's a new album released yesterday called Come Morning. It's their next album. At the same time that it's coming out, Bonnie Raitt has released her new album called Just Like That. And her first single off that album, the one that is a basic golden handshake, was the Landreth Brothers song Made Up Mind. And so the game changes right there. They're touring Canada. They're touring Europe for quite a while. They'll be doing tons of festivals. This is a band on the cusp of breakthrough into stardom. The Landreth Brothers, Joey and David Landreth, Winnipeg, Manitoba. New album, Come Morning. We're going to feature that one now. Enjoy this edition of Mulligan Stew, the podcast with the Brothers Landreth. I'm Terry David Mulligan, and this is Mulligan Stew Podcast. Not as cool as the David Miles podcast, but it's okay. It's still the Mulligan Stew podcast.
It's not a contest.
It's not a contest. It's a podcast. I have the Landreth boys with me. And by the way, I got to ask you this. This is nuts and bolts, and I've never asked you this question.
All right.
The name is the Bros. Landreth.
Uh-huh.
Did you just casually write that out, or did you have a debate about how you're going to do that? And what does
We
the
debated
dot
it.
represent? And how do you want that? How do you want it to say? Because I will say the Landreth Brothers. What is it? What is the correct pronunciation?
The Brothers Landreth.
But a shortened Brothers.
Yeah. So the whole, and this is the debate of the millennium, Terry. But it's because we're children of the late 80s and early 90s.
Yes, sir.
And the Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers, was like not like the first one, the Mario Brothers for original Nintendo NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, was spelt the Mario Bros. But it was said the Mario Brothers. Like nobody says the Mario Bros. They say the Mario Brothers. Yeah. And so we just were like, this makes sense. Everybody's gonna get it. And now we're the Bros Landreth, which I don't hate it, but it's not the band.
Why is it?
I don't know. I've never said this out loud, but I think if I could do it again, I would call us the Landreth Brothers.
Really, eh?
Yeah.
Shoot.
I would.
I don't think anybody would get mad at it.
It's not too late to change now because that's what people say.
It's too late. It's too late. Only you.
That's good.
We get the Bros Landreth. Anyways.
I do like the Landreth boys, though. That makes me feel safe.
BOYZ. Okay, so the Brothers Landreth, Come Morning is this new album that's brought us together. But we would still be talking anyway about any project that you happen to be included in. But first, because you are you and because you are fathers and husbands, how these 2 years, were you safe and well? Did you, how did it go for all of you?
Oh, really well. Yeah. I mean, I'm almost embarrassed to say, because I know that this was a much harder time for a lot of people than it was for us. But we, like, my son was born January 3rd, 2020. My parental leave was over at the end of March, and I was about to head out on tour, and I was not ready to go.
Sure.
And then I fear that I may have manifested the pandemic. But when those tour dates fell off, I was so relieved because I wasn't ready to go. And instead of spending the first 2 years away from my son and traveling a ton, I wound up spending every single day with him. And that has just been the biggest gift.
That is fantastic. Joey?
And
yeah, same kind of thing. And my wife, Anna, and I, we have been talking about, starting a family and, sort of casually making small plans. But when Dave's son, Finn, was born, that pretty much started the countdown timer to when we were going to start our family. Yeah. And
they're contagious. You got to be careful. You can catch babies.
I mean, without sharing too much information, it was 6 months later Finn was born, and then in 6 months we were like, let's do this. so our daughter was born March 9th of 2021, and same thing, and we and part of that was we were able to watch this sort of really beautiful thing happen that I think both, I mean, I won't speak for you, but I know for me, I just always kind of had this assumption that I would miss a lot of my child, the early time of my children.
Sure.
And I always imagined that I would start a family, and I just kind of imagined that I would sort of follow in the footsteps of a lot of my sort of colleagues and sort of watch them do their best, but, kind of not be around a whole lot. And I just kind of figured like, oh, that will be a hard thing to do. And the pandemic just put us in a position where we thought, look at we kind of wanted to buy a house first, but we did the housing market was crazy here. I mean, compared to, the West Coast, probably not, but we just started going crazy, and it was like, well, this isn't looking realistic. Well, do we need a house to have a kid? No, I don't think so. The apartment's big enough. We got a spare bedroom. We can turn it into a nursery. Let's do this. And it was really about, well, I'm not going on the road again for at least another year, maybe 2. So let's do this now while we know we have the time. Okay. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I know, we are definitely going to have more kids, and I won't miss these days. Having experienced what I did, I will always make sure that I can take that time off.
Were brand new before I really knew you, and before you really knew. We'd go out driving, I'd passed the line, and without ever knowing exactly where we were going. Oh, but if your hand finds mine, I can drive all night. The sun will come up tomorrow, and time is only ours to borrow. I'll tell you this much, there won't ever be enough. Now we love each other's, married, intertwined. I know every line, and you know every one of mine. Oh, but if your hand finds mine, I can drive all night. The sun will come up though sometimes it feels broken, you still choose my heart, my heart, my heart. No, but if your hand finds mine, I can drive all night. The sun will come up tomorrow, and time is only ours to borrow. I'll tell you this much: there will never be enough. When there is darkness, honey, you shine. Give me all your loving. It's mine, all mine. If we live forever, there won't be enough time. Give me all your loving. I give you mine, all mine. When there is darkness, honey, you shine. You give me all your loving. Yeah, it's mine, all mine. If we live forever, there won't be enough time. Give me all your loving. I give you mine, all mine. When there is darkness, honey, you shine. Give me all your loving. It's mine, all mine. If we live forever, there won't be enough time. Give me all your loving. I give you mine, all mine. When there is darkness, honey, you shine. I give you all your loving. I give you mine, all mine.
There's an interesting dichotomy here. Is that you spend endless weeks and months on the road, away from family and home, right? And you write
Yeah.
about it. You
Yeah.
write about it, and we identify with it. And then those songs come out, and they take you on the road again.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
if you just put out shit songs, none of this would happen. But no,
I know.
they're just getting better and better, and they're taking you further away.
Yeah, it is a funny
It's a weird.
juxtaposition. Yeah, we just got to start writing real turd stinker tunes.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's what, when Sting went through his loot phase, that's what he was doing. He was just
Okay,
like,
yeah.
you know what? I want to spend some time at home. I'm going to put out a loot record.
All right,
hasn't toured
record
in
label,
10
do
years.
your best with this. Yeah.
I took time to write some notes. I don't know why I do it. I just keep staring at the camera. Before we get into the tunes here, just for a second, you can't imagine how happy I was to see Made Up Mind come out as Bonnie's first single. The first single on
I know.
Just Like That. I mean, you know how important that first single is. It's your introduction. It's your greeting card. It's your song, and it's true to your song. It's fantastic,
Yeah.
and it's going to change your life, and you know it. You just don't know how much.
Yeah, well, I mean, so the story behind this is so fun. We
It's a
met
folk
Bonnie
fest.
back in 2014. She was playing the Winnipeg Folk Festival. We played before her, and she came and watched our set, and we hung out with her a little bit in between both of our sets. And then at the end of the night, we had a really nice time hanging out. This is sort of the abridged version. But at the end of the night, she said, "Hey guys, like, I'm always looking for songs. I write my own stuff, but I cut a lot of outside stuff.
Sure.
So if you've got anything that you think fits, send it over. Here's my email address." And so I sat on her email address for like 3 or 4 months before I sent her anything. And I the first thing that happened was, like, I tried to write stuff and it just, of course, didn't work. So I emailed her and I said, "Listen, it was so great to connect with you. Thanks for trusting me with your contact info. And, I just wanted to let you know that there's really nothing in the catalog right now that I think fits, but here is literally everything I've ever written, all the records that we had." I can't remember if we were already starting to work on new tunes, but I sent her all of Let It Lie, and then a bunch of other stuff that we had sort of demos of, and sort of said, if any of this hits you, it's yours. Don't even ask, just take it. And then fast forward to the summertime of last year, and a friend of mine who builds guitar pedals in Nashville, who I worked with him we collaborated and designed a pedal together. He called me and said, "Hey man, the Kenny Greenberg, who's a great session guitar player in Nashville, just called me and said he's on a Bonnie Raitt session, and she told him that he needs to get the Joey Landreth sound for this song, because they're cutting a Brothers Landreth song." He wouldn't tell me which one, but I sold him 2 pedals. And I was like, "You didn't give them to him?" I think you did just give them to him. But so, initially, like, of course, I told Dave and our manager, but we both knew, like, you don't get excited until it's in shrink wrap. Because, like,
7 years, right?
She recorded it. Doesn't mean that it's going to make a record. Doesn't mean that it's ever going to see the light of day. I'm just thrilled that she liked the song enough to record it. Cool. I hope that it sees the light of day one day, but it may never. And then fast forward to December, and we get an email. And not only did she record it and it's on the record, but it's going to be the first single. It was just like, and like, because I'm the one that got Bonnie's email at the end of the night. So I'm the only one that corresponds with her. So I get the email directly. Like, they didn't email management. They didn't email our PR, which in the States, we have the same publicist. Like, it was nothing. Like, Bonnie's email, or Bonnie's manager reached out and said, "Hey, Joey, this is so-and-so Bonnie's manager. And just wanted to let
Hope you like it."
Yeah. Hope you like it.
They were so worried because Bonnie thought she
sang a wrong lyric.
Wrong. And she got it right, but she thought that she got it wrong. So there's like this big chunk of the emails really apologetic.
I'm
like,
so sorry that
Yeah. It's like, man, whatever, Bonnie.
Whatever.
You can make whatever edits you want.
Those music fans in her audience who have yet to discover you will discover you.
Yeah.
Good Lord. What the hell? This is just Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
And thanks, Terry. Ho, ho, ho.
All right. Come morning. As soon as I heard it first time, thank you for sending it in advance and letting me live with it for a while, because I love that. In the car, just my head on a pillow, whatever. But things have changed. It was almost immediate. I went, oh, this is different. This is a good difference. They've made decisions and they've moved in another direction. For example, I was thinking about when you guys go out on the road, you're going to have those tunes that are jump blues, uplifting, straight standard blues. You're going to drop these in. If you just did an entire concert of these songs, it's almost like a soft cedar. There's not a lot of room for dancing in here, right? So how you blend those albums and those songs on set are going to be an interesting idea. But it is a different Landreth Brothers, and you knew that going in. You just knew it. As soon as those songs started to take shape, what was the first one that you laid down?
The first one that we started working on was "Stay,"
okay.
And the record took a little. We had a couple false starts. It took a while for us to kind of catch our pace, but and again, the shorter, slightly less detailed version of the story is that we kind of got to a point where we had all of the bed tracks recorded for the record, and it was good, but it just wasn't blowing our hair back, and so we thought, well, let's start over. And by the time we had made the decision to start over, the pandemic had hit us really hard in terms of restrictions here in Manitoba. So we couldn't gather the way that we normally would.
Sure.
And so we thought, okay, well, we don't want to wait. We have no idea when things are going to open up and when it's going to be safe to gather in bigger groups. So, what does it look like for us to make a record with these restrictions in place? And it was like, well, I send people guitar tracks all the time. People call and say, hey, can you play solo on this? Can you do this on that? Why don't we see if we can get somebody to play drums on it? And then we said, okay, well, if we're going to do that, then, because we're always sort of thinking, okay, who's our favorite drummer right now that we're working with that's in our community or that's nearby? But, well, we can't work with anybody nearby. We can't work with somebody down the street. We can't work with somebody, we can't fly somebody in from Toronto or Vancouver or something. So let's call one of our heroes. So we called Aaron Sterling, who's a massive session player, plays, in John Mayer's live band as well as on his records, and his sort of Rolodex goes on and on and on. And we just sent him an email and say, hey, would you play on this record? And he's like, oh yeah, I heard you guys. I like you. Okay, yeah, I'll do it. And that was really the decision that kind of pushed this, started the ball rolling in a new direction, because we'd never made a record like that. And we've always gone into the studio with some really serious ideas sort of ironed out ahead of time of what it's going to sound like.
So, David, let me get this right. Thank you, Joey. You guys used to jam. You took great pride in gathering the musicians that you wanted to have in the room with you, and then jamming, working on a riff, and it was started to take shape and form. But these sound different. These sound like you took a different approach. Am I reading too much into it?
No, you nailed it. Prior to this record, we had these really hard and fast ideas about who we were as artists, and we were a live band because Joey and I both cut our teeth as session musicians. We were working musicians before we were a band. We played in other people's bands. We prided ourselves in being really good at our instruments and being heavy players and being able to play a bunch of different styles and being versatile. And so when we would go into the studio, we tried to capture that. We would get the core of the band together and we'd capture the bed tracks live off the floor. We play, we wouldn't do a ton of pre-production. We'd get in with a real simple sketch, and then we would learn the song, play it down 3 or 4 times, take the most inspired take, and that's that.
Not this one.
Not this one. This one was very orchestrated, and we were able to do anything was up for grabs. At any point, we could slash the arrangement. We could change the key, the tempo, the feel. We could remove anything and start from scratch. So it really was like this very deliberate, thoughtful exploration, and it was so fun to make a record that way. It was so fun to play something and then sit with it for a few days and come back and go, that's not right. Let's get something different. And getting there was really difficult because it meant that we had to abandon this idea of us being this very narrow, we are a rock and roll band that plays songs live, and that's the energy that captures. Like, that's one way of doing it, and we'll probably make another record like that at some point. But we get to do that live on stage. That's what we do live on stage. This doesn't have to be the same experience. It can be its own thing. And yeah, so you nailed it, man. That was really the spirit behind this record, was letting go of that and being free to chase the song for whatever it needed, and not being afraid to go there.
Did you two ask each other about the intent for the songs that you were bringing in to the session? Where the heart of the song came from in the first place?
It was never really like a conversation that happened separately, like, hey, let's talk about this.
Okay.
But it played a massive part in how we put this record together. Yeah. And maybe in a way that we've not done before. Like, nobody wants to talk about the pandemic because we've all experienced it. And it's been what it's been for everybody.
Sure.
But the pandemic has been a really big what's the word I'm looking for? It was a break for me because I was going nonstop. I've been touring nonstop since like 2012, 2011. And by the time we finished our touring in 2019, we were like, okay, Joe needs a break. We'll take 3 months off. And Finn's gonna be born, and so we'll take some time off. We'll get back to work in March. And by the time March came around, Dave's story was a little different than mine. Of course, I was eagerly anticipating my nephew, but the stakes are different when it's when you're not the dad, when you're the uncle. My job is like take him fishing,
Yeah.
but for me it was like March is coming up, and I'm not rested. I'm just beginning to kind of hit reset, and yet I have to jump back in. And then of course everything got canceled, and it really kind of put me face to face with a lot of questions about who I am as a person and as an artist, but not just as a musician, but as an artist, and what is art to me, and what is it about the things that I love to listen to that keep me going back to them. And in that I found there's a song and there's production, but there's always something deeper, and there's always something, like we were talking about this with David Miles, but weeping listening to Bonnie Raitt sing "I Can't Make You Love Me," not because she's an awesome singer. Yeah, she's an awesome singer and she's an awesome guitar player, but when she sings that song, you are bathing in the middle of unrequited love, and you can't help but feel it. And so that's kind of where I wanted this record to come from. And it made us make a lot of different choices. I love to play guitar in a certain way. I like to arrange background harmonies in a certain way, but every time we kind of tried to do the usual thing, it just felt like, man, this is just getting in the way of what we're trying to say. And so for the first time ever on a Brothers Landreth song, there's a song without any background harmonies, because it's just like
there's a few.
Yeah, that's true. Because we would try and we go, I'm not hearing it, and it's not what the song wants.
Okay, so I know that Wally, your dad always talked about less is more, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm hearing that, but also I'm hearing tone, I'm hearing shape, I'm hearing form, mood. Mood is, well, for example, Drive All Night, What in the World, the singles, obviously. The one that got me, just hooked me so hard was Corduroy. I just dug so much the way it stuck under my skin and then just stayed there. It's really cool.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, Corduroy was probably the hardest song on the record to get right for me. It's a really, really intensely vulnerable and personal story. So I mean, yeah, this is not something that we talk about a lot, but I am a survivor of sexual abuse, and it's something that I've been working on in my life for most of my adult life, and I started to explore the idea of what does it look like to tell my own version of this story.
Yeah.
And Corduroy is the beginning. This is chapter 1.
Wow.
In this story. And it's because when you tell someone I'm a survivor of sexual abuse, it's always, I'm so sorry. And which is the right response. That's so awful. That's, and when, for me, I was a young boy when it happened. And so this defines you. This is this really awful thing that has happened, and that it's looming over you, and that it's broken you, and that you have to grow, and you're going to have to work on it. And all those things are true, but that's not the only side of the story. And so this song is not necessarily at all trying to celebrate anything, but it's trying to say there's more to this than just how dark this is. And yes, there's darkness, but there's also other things. Okay. And I think the main takeaway for Corduroy for me is I'm going to tell my version of the story instead of having it dictated to me by someone else. And
well, I hope the exercise heals I hope the exercise.
Tremendously so.
Clean.
Tremendously so.
Okay.
Yeah. It has been incredibly healing. And I mean, it was hard because this story means so much, you know. And when we started recording it, it was like we gotta get this right. But yeah, absolutely very healing.
Okay.
You and your corduroy, your 90s hair, your crooked smile, and me and my loneliness, my fragility. You came for me. Now I wonder if you think of me at all. I think of you every single day. Undercover, underwater, lock and key. My first lover, you will always be to me. You and I in that basement room, the morning light come shining through. Me and you, nobody ever knew, no, no, while you were holding me, I couldn't move, but I think about you every single day. What's it like to get to walk away? Undercover, underwater, lock and key. My first lover, you will always be to me. Undercover, underwater, lock and key. My first lover, you will always be to me.
David, tell me about one of your tunes that you brought to the room that turned out beyond expectations for you.
Oh man. Well, the only song that I really wrote on my or started mostly on my own from that batch is Shame. And it's the
Wow.
one that I sing on the record.
Yeah.
Everything else on the record was either Joey started it or we started together.
Yeah.
So, and that one I got most of the way. And it is truly a co-write. Like we did collaborate on that one, but that was the one that sort of like I started over in my little corner and brought it over and was like, hey, what do you think of this?
Tedeschi Trucks Band did a track called Shame, but it was meant to politically for the darkness of the 4-year period that what's his face was in power.
The
So
potato.
this is a different Shame, I would assume.
President Potato. Yeah, no, this was also a difficult song to write, and it's just about facing some of the feelings around letting your people down, you know, looking back at some of the people in your life that in hindsight you have regrets about
Sure.
how that relationship went, or it's not at all a romantic song, though, you know, people are welcome to it if that's how it hits them, you know, if that's where it hits them. But it's about looking at sort of friendships and relationships that don't weather so well necessarily, and looking at the part that you played in it and being grateful for it, and just recognizing that maybe it didn't go down, maybe you do it a little differently.
Thank you both.
Time was I didn't think about it. These days it's the only thing on my mind. I wouldn't be here without you, and it breaks my heart to leave you behind. When objects they appear bigger in the rear view mirror, your heavy foot finds a gas, sure as the rising sun. You won't outrun 'em, you best move over, let 'em pass. Shame, shame, shame. No wicked wonder it pulled us under. Damn right, pride came before the fall. Pulling at the seams of half-hearted dreams, unravel till there's nothing left at all. Your head's ringing like a bell, and it hurts like hell. You're strung out a long way from home. You can fool the rest, but if I had to guess, part of you is still waiting there alone. Shame, shame, shame. It's a crying shame when I hear your name. Shame, shame, shame. There is a shadow where you once were. I got a hard time looking over there. It reminds me of my failures, an awful quiet and an empty chair. You always had my back, you were good like that. Wanted so bad to be a good man. Shame, shame, shame. It's
Uh, well, the singles just jumped out at us. What in the world? Oh, what in the world would I do? Drive all night? I think one of you was quoted as saying in the team press release that came out about Drive All Night was possibly a sign of things to come, but it's tough to say what the future holds. Is this a one-off direction? Because you do that. You do your projects, and then you move on. Are you still searching for, or are we to not get comfortable with who you are from gig to gig?
What a fun question, man. I think, the thing that's really different about this record, and I think we've been saying, we've been doing, a couple of months of lots of press, and we've been saying to folks, like, you're going to listen to this record and you're definitely going to hear where things have sort of shifted, but it's not like you're going to put it on and go, this is unrecognizable. It's still very much us. There's still a lot of that sort of traditional Brothers Landreth stuff. But I think what's different about this record is that we really tried hard to go into this record without a rule book in terms of this is how the Brothers Landreth make a record, because immediately out of the gate, as soon as we're hiring a drummer over correspondence over the internet, this is not how the Brothers Landreth make a record. Sure. So it was like, well, if that rule is getting broken, then let's break them all. And I've in the last couple of years, I've gotten really interested in making weird sounds with pedals, for the lack of a better way to put it. It always felt like that was going to be separate from the Brothers, because, the Brothers Landreth is a very rootsy kind of organic Americana thing. Lots of acoustic guitars, electric guitars played in a traditional electric guitar kind of way. But it is a big part of sort of my own growth as an artist, is that I'm looking for ways to create music outside of just my main instrument. And so Drive All Night is definitely an example of that. So it's not like, yep, this is the direction that we're going, but the new direction for the Brothers Landreth is a little bit more anything goes. And we're no longer going to make creative decisions based on what we expect to hear from ourselves or what other people are expecting to hear from us.
Yeah. I think we like, when I think of the artists that we really love and respect, they are cats like Bonnie Raitt and Ry Cooder and John Hyatt, but also people like, were we teasing about Sting a minute ago?
Yeah.
I love Sting. I really love Sting and Peter Gabriel. I love these artists that are not afraid of redefining themselves and chasing something new. And I think when we talk about sort of the careers that we want to have artistically, we always have to hit this bar of like, it needs to be honest, it needs to feel sincere. When we listen to it, we have to go, yeah, that's our truth. We mean that, that's genuine. But at the same point, I think like for us, the fun of it is looking into the corners and trying to challenge ourselves and do new things and explore new ways of expressing ourselves, new ideas to talk about. I have a ton of respect for artists like AC/DC who are just like, we know who we are and we are going to put out 40 records like this.
That you could press play on all 40 of them at the same time and they would be the same record.
But I respect that because they know who they are and it's really sincere, and that they're not bullshit when they get up there and they play like that.
They hit the pocket and said, we're gonna live here.
Oh man. Yeah. And I mean they're like, the artistry of AC/DC is not necessarily in the songs, but it's in how they play. And they can play, they can make 40 records that sound the same, but the magic is the intricacy between those guys. And for us on this record, we've had a tiny bit of feedback of people saying like, oh, I kind of miss the, the Let It Lie vibe or the 87 vibe or things like that. And while that's totally valid and I can appreciate that, but at the end of the day, I think Dave and I, we are so grateful for our fans, and we have the most generous and kind fans. But at the end of the day, I mean, this, like, the music we make is not a popularity contest. This is something that is, we start by making because we feel like we have to.
But I will hold you to something there. You guys make sure that people know what your message is, what you're thinking, how songs come to shape, how tours happen. You involve us in the conversation. We're part of a larger family. I mean, look at your website, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
All right. See, nodding ain't going to work here. It's your turn, David, because
all right,
David, you're going to get all the things I put in the on the side of the sheet I was writing on.
Okay, I'm in the margins. We're getting into the margins.
Will you be a trio when you tour?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Oh, we're so excited. We're so excited for this band.
Get out. Oh, my
Yeah.
God. Okay.
It's me, Joey, no surprise there, and Roman Clark on drums. And we have, for the first time in almost 10 years, spent the last 2 months holed up rehearsing every single day, which we haven't done since we were kids. And it is sounding so good. It sounds so good. We are playing better. We are singing better. We are getting better sounds than we ever have. This show is really something special.
Did you happen to read about the event that happened with Bare Naked Ladies in London? Two of the guys went down with COVID.
Oh no!
And so, Tyler on drums and Ed on guitar, on vocals and guitar, did the concerts. And people loved it. They loved it because, first of all, they're consummate professionals. They can tap dance their way through anything. But the audience said, no, come and play. So I mean, strip it down to a trio or do whatever. We're coming to see you. We've made these plans. Let's just do this. I love what the audience represents these days.
I feel fearful for the hired musicians on that tour. When after the show, they're like, well, hey, that went pretty good.
Yeah.
Geez, there'd be a lot more room on the bus without you schmucks.
Yeah.
It's something that we're like, this time has again afforded us this incredible window to do this thing, to get this band together and drill into these songs and develop the set list. And we're telling live on stage, we're going to be able to tell this whole story. We've built this arc, this narrative, and it's so fun. I can't wait for people to hear this.
It's fantastic. It's just fantastic. The commentary in between the songs is going to be well worth it. I see it June 3rd. You start your tour, and then you head for so June. Come on, all right, and then September, Shepherd's Bush, and on. July and August. There's a blank in that tour schedule. It's a noticeable valley. Is that allowing for festivals? What's going on in there? What can you do?
Yeah, I won't give any spoilers because I think contractually we're obliged to
spit it out right now.
But there's a couple of festivals. But here's what happened with the pandemic. Not all of, but the vast majority of the summer festivals, specifically the folk festivals, that's sort of our community. When we do festivals, that's where we land. They're holding over their dates that have been perpetually canceled. So a lot of those spots are going to the artists that would have had shows in 2020.
All right.
Are picking them up. So it's a slow summer for us, but it's going to give us a nice reprieve because we're going to hit the road for a month. We haven't been away from our kids for more than a day in 2 years. So this is a chance to sort of charge the batteries.
Will we see you maybe at a festival in, say, Canada?
You probably will.
All right.
Yeah, you will. So maybe somewhere on the West Coast, dare I say. But you'll also see us, we haven't announced them yet, but we're going to announce some dates out west. So we'll be out from sort of west of Winnipeg all the way to the island in October.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'll clear out the guest room, Terry. We're coming to crash.
Clear out the airstream. The bros are going to come.
Oh, I have time for. I made a pitch. I said, could you play something? Did you?
Oh yeah, right.
Did you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I forgot we were doing that. Here's your guitar, Joseph.
And I'll let you.
Thanks. Okay, are we good to go, Terry?
Good to go.
I'll be reaching out for nothing in the middle of the night, trying out punchlines with no man way. Who would I miss? Who would I hold
tight. Who will outshine the sun in the morning light? What in the world I do without you? What in the world I do without you? Who in the world will the birds sing to? And who'll be the eye in my I love you? Who would make all of my dreams come true? Who'll forgive what I can't undo? What in the world would I do without you? What in the world would I do without you? I'd be driving at night with no lights on, trying to find my way home. What in the world would I do without you? When I hear a slow song where I spin around, will be the home in my hometown. When I get too high, who would take off my crown? When I'm upon a ledge, who would talk me down? What in the world would I do without you? What in the world would I do without you? I'd be driving at night, no lights on, out in the dark, too far gone, trying to find my way back home to you. What in the world would I do without you? What in the world would I do without you?
Bless your hearts. Bless your hearts. And you got it in. I got it all.
We did it.
We got it all. Oh, Terry, thanks so much for having us, man.
It's so nice chatting with you, man. I miss you, Terry.
My heart's with you. Just take care of each other and yourselves and your lives and these songs, okay?
We will do, and we can't wait to see you in the flesh.
Thank you. David and Joey Landreth. When brothers and sisters and families make music together, it's very, very special. There's no hiding. They know who each is in the room, and it just makes for greater music. It's as simple as that. They have to be friends. Think the Everly Brothers. There you go. All right, so go and find that album if you can. Give it a listen. Come Morning, the Brothers Landreth. And check out the Bonnie Raitt single that she released, Made Up Mind. She liked it so much, she made it the first single off her new album just like that. I thank the guys. I'm looking forward to seeing them this summer, live. Next week, Bruce McCullough, Scott Thompson from Kids in the Hall. And we're going to try to put some sense to it because they're funny. And I just love setting them up. I love tossing softballs to them so they can hit out of the park. And so Kids in the Hall are back after all this time. And a former member of the Landreth Brothers band, Ariel Posen, has gone on to become his own guitar god and singer, songwriter. And he has a new album. And he's touring. Frankly, they're going to cross paths at some time over in Europe. And he'll be here with us in 2 weeks. This is the Mulligan Stew Podcast. Thank you for subscribing on Spotify, Google Play, or Apple Podcasts. Take care. Take care.